Yo, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Or anyone that's come already. All these early birds coming to catch their worms. I can guarantee many worms in this stream. Maybe. Has anyone actually ever played this game? I have not. Who knows how many worms there are? We're gonna have to play the game to find out. Maybe we should add a worm counter. Hang on, what do you mean auto and combat difficulty? I haven't looked through these settings too much, because I didn't want to start it just yet, because in these modern games, I just have a feeling there's going to be a lot of like cutscenes at the start, and I figured we can go through that together. Hello! Hey, hello! Oh, you know what I forgot? There's no bot up. We have to launch the bot. If the bot still works. Oh, it still works! Wow! That's crazy! Wow! Hello. Hello, Ron. Hello. Hello, Hippo. Hello. Hello, James. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I hope this game runs with my controller. You reckon? It does. This is a controller game, right? Again, I have no idea what this game is. I think it's some sort of action RPG? Maybe? It's like... maybe not RPG, but it's like some sort of action-ish game, right? I mean, any game where you use a sword is automatic in RPG, right? I think that's how the genres work. I was assuming this was a narrative walk around kind of thing. I think there's combat. I mean, yeah, there's definitely combat. The difficulty is set to auto for whatever that means. I guess that's like, maybe if you die, it reduces the difficulty. But I think there's a lot of walking around, hanging about, chilling, maybe, yeah. There's themes of like psychosis or something. I got a warning about that when I booted the game up. It was like, yo dude, a bunch of health professionals helped to create this game. Just by the way, heads up. Like little content warning. So if anyone's not in the mood for that sort of thing, then you know where to go. The place is not here. I think we could probably get going soon. Let's just quick look at the graphics. You know what? That's probably fine. Probably have no objections to any of these settings. It has a good amount of accessibility stuff, but I don't think I need any of this. I was maybe thinking of making bigger subtitles. But yeah, hello everyone. Welcome. It's been a long time since I streamed now. It's been like 3 months, right? I was thinking about maybe streaming while in Finland. I just never got around to it. Maybe another time. I do have some stuff ready for it now. But maybe another time I'll do that. But it's been a while. And even 3 months ago, we didn't even stream that much. It was like a month of streaming after not streaming for a couple of weeks as well. So it's been quite sporadic lately. It'll be fun getting back into it. I'm gonna work on like some stream stuff. I kind of want to make some emotes at some point. Would be fun to have some more emotes. I got a lot of slots. I'm just gonna make some really terrible ones, and you're gonna enjoy them. You're gonna love them. That's an order. And I need to like work on some art assets and stuff. Maybe some schedule changes as well. Oh yeah, I have some emotes already. Check out that. Oh, this follower emotes. I forgot Twitch did that. That's great. Yeah, see, we need more follower emotes. That's the thing. There's like animated emotes as well, but I can't even do regular emotes, so God help me if I'm gonna try making a friggin' Giffen. No. I launched the bot. I did it. I was convinced the bot wouldn't even start, considering it's been so long, but I guess nothing's really changed on this computer. As long as the computer worked, it would start. But I had a feeling I would have to like reconfigure something. Like I just deleted some file when I got back for one reason or another, because I don't actually recognize my computer anymore. I have like 6 drives or something on my computer, and I was gonna install this game. And I was like, where the hell do I put my games? Where did I do it? I have like 6 2TB drives. What am I doing with this computer? I'm absolutely insane. And the worst thing is that I've actually like occupied most of the storage on the computer as well. Oh my god, it's a disaster. I don't know where anything is. I need to tidy this up. It's horrible. Like, it's not 6. Sorry, I'm lying. That's an exaggeration. There's 5 drives. Oh. I should also warn you, I might sniffle today. Feeling a tiny bit under the weather. I was like, oh, do I want to stream today? I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway. And you're gonna love the sniffles. It's 6 now. In my time anyway. I think that's a good time to start the game. It's gotta be some cutscenes, right? She duck out of the way preemptively. God, it's so weird being on this like keyboard and everything again. I'm so not used to any of the stuff on my rig, man. It all feels very unfamiliar. I really hope it's supposed to be this jittery, man.
Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome.
Oh my god, what if this game is 5 FPS?
You're safe.
And I just didn't test it?
I'll be right here. Nice and close so I can speak without alerting the others. Let me tell you about Senua. Her story has already come to an end, but now it begins anew.
Oh no, it's not supposed to be like this, is it?
What's happening? It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting.
Oh, thank goodness. It's moved out.
She's getting.
I think.
They're watching. They're watching. They're watching.
This is a journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories after this one.
Hey, can I pause it? I can't pause. I have a feeling I don't an FPS counter. It's not supposed to be like this, is it? Let me just put it on like medium. It's an old game, right? Pretty sure I should be able to run this. No, it's still a bit weird.
She's doing this for him. She wants to rescue you. He's already doing it. They're coming.
Oh, I really should have tested it. I kind of picked a random game today. I was like, I gotta start with something when I'm back. Yeah, there's no way it's supposed to look like that. There's no way. There's no way. Why is it like that? It's really weird. Maybe it doesn't like my resolution. I'll put it on 1080, I guess. It's an oddly low frame rate for me, considering my computer. Like at most, I could maybe be upset about the stream, I guess. Yeah, that's better.
You hear them too, right?
Oh shit! I should have tested this. Oops. Oops. my bad. Woof, that's a bad start. I really did not expect us to run this poly. That's a big surprise to me. Like, we played Witcher 3 completely painlessly, right? So I was just thinking, if I can do that, I can play probably anything, right? And stream it. Hang on, was ray tracing on? That shouldn't even like be able to run on my computer. I don't have an RTX. That might have been it. No, it's... Was it just DirectX 12?
Around ever since the tragedy.
Okay, sure. Don't try running this on DirectX 12 or the game just shit itself, I guess. I shouldn't rerun this on 4040p anyway, because I'm not streaming 4040p anyway, but I just want to test. Oh, okay, I'm gonna restart the game. I'm gonna restart the game. We're doing it live. We're gonna restart the game, considering that whole scene was real chopped up. It should be fine now, I guess. Here we go. Ooh, we get one. Yeah, there we go. It looks fine now. It looks fine now. That's so strange, though.
Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome. You're safe with me. I'll be right here, nice and close so I can speak without alerting the others. Let me tell you about Senua. Her story has already come to an end, but now it begins anew.
What's happening? It's breathing. It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer.
Oh my god, she detected my noise gate. Oh no. She can hear me mouth breathing.
This is a journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories after this one.
What is she doing? Why is she doing this? They're watching. Why doesn't she turn coming? She's doing this for him. She wants to rescue him. He's already dead. I can feel you coming.
Poor Senua, she's still on text-to-speech on the stream chat.
Oh, how
It's
rude.
torturous.
I never told you of the others. You hear them too, right? They've been around ever since the tragedy. Well, that's not quite true. Some are old, some are new, but they've changed. I think the darkness changed them, just like it changed her.
Can you see them? Over there. Why isn't she looking? Why aren't you looking?
I'm looking as best I can.
Up ahead. You see it too?
Up ahead? I don't see a thing. Oh, there's a guy.
After all,
I can see that.
she's finally
It's got a real Kendall thing going on with him.
the place the Northmen
Is that a guy? Maybe. Kinda can't see anything past the water surface here. It's very green. No, yeah, there's some guys. There's definitely a guy though. Indubitably a guy. Gavin Costello. Bet he serves some nice cheese. But most likely not. What is that cheese branding? Is it Castello or is it Costello? I bought it once because I was like, I'm gonna try this cheese now. And it was like the most soft, rubbery, tasteless thing I've ever had. It was horrible.
the fields and rivers of hell
It just made me think I didn't like cheese anymore.
don't always lie still here. This is not a place of rest.
Can't do this. Go back. They're going to do that to you. Can you see them? Can you see them? They're going to do that to you.
No, there's no way. Look at those guys. They're like generic peasant number 3. We're not like them at all. They're not gonna do that to us. We're fine.
Stop. Can you feel them watching? They're watching her. They're watching her. You're so close to the darkness. Go back. Can you feel it?
What is she thinking? I can tell you. She's afraid. Wouldn't you be? You'd think she would get used to it by now after so many years. But the darkness, it just builds onto itself.
Oh, there was an option for subtitles, yes. I thought I turned it on. I think they're just not subtitling the whispers. I can turn the game up a little bit. I don't know if it's quiet or not, But I can turn it up a little bit.
Growing stronger, towering over her. You might try and ignore it. Turn away.
Let's give it out again.
It's always there,
Might get loud later though.
where you're most vulnerable. It's like it knows that just enough light is all you need to see its suffocating power.
I guess the idea is you can't be sure what to say because it's sort of fleeting and confusing. Yeah, I think so. I think they're gonna have subtitles. Let me just double check that. Oh, the subtitles might actually be in a different option. Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. See, they brought up this option to me about subtitles. I was like, oh. I guess the subtitles are just on then. But no, they just accessibility options about subtitles. Like, they brought that up automatically when I started the game. There we go. It's odd that they wouldn't have the option for the subtitles in there.
You might think she's brave to go on this journey on her own, but it isn't bravery that drives her. Bravery only means something to those afraid of death. Senua's fear runs far, far deeper.
Hopefully the whispers are a little bit more audible there. At least you can read with the subtitles on now. I feel like subtitles should just be turned on by default in every game. They're just so nice. Like all the subtitles in both Norwegian and English. I just like reading along with whatever I'm watching or playing.
What is she looking at? What is she leaving behind? I know what she's thinking. I hear her thoughts. It's not too late to get into the boat and go back. No one will judge her. No one will ever know.
Oh, I'll know. We spend 5 minutes on our boat. I'll know if you just go back.
There's no going back.
Hang on, you call that a boat?
You can't do it.
Senua pushes away a world that conspired to cause so much suffering. There's nothing to go back to, and worse to look forward to. Why don't you join us? Maybe you too have a part to play in this story.
Oh. I got control. Yeah, the subtitles can draw your eyes towards them a little bit. But it's not too bad for me unless the subtitles like very big or something. Like when I was watching movies in Finland, sometimes the subtitles were in both Finnish and Swedish, so it felt like there was a lot of text on the screen whenever there were subtitles, and then it drew my eyes a little bit when I was just trying to listen, because I couldn't understand either language. Oh, there we go.
Do not forget my
But if it's just like this, I'm totally fine with it.
because your darkness comes from hell, and your fate lies there. They say the burning of a corpse will take you straight to Hela's gate, but gods and the living will follow this path. You must leave the Isles of Orkney across the eastern sea and find a road that leads north and down through deep, dark valleys. After 9 nights of riding, you will follow a great river and will find a bridge covered in gold. The path to Helheim goes from there, across the river of knives that flows from the dark world of Niflheim.
I guess there's a lot of like Nordic stuff in this. Add nerdy. It's interesting. Not entirely sure what it's doing yet. I think that's entirely the point. Got a Norn Island lad over. Is that the accent? I was wondering about that. I was like, that guy kind of sounds like he's doing a Sean Bean voice. That's all I know about accents. Voices. No, it's gonna go back. Oh, I kind of want to go back now though. It's too wet. That's my one fear. Oh no, I've been playing Alan Wake again. You know what? That been totally fun. I had fun with that game. That was pretty good.
The darkness is coming. It yearns for life, hungers for it. Like a pack of wolves on a
Alright, let me know if it's being a little bit loud now, because I did have to turn it up a bit, and now it's got a bit louder again, so just let me know if I need to turn it down again. I can turn it down a little bit if it needs to be. But I'm not entirely sure where the volumes are anymore, because it's been a while. This is just a warm-up stream, really. Getting back in the action.
not this time.
It's pretty visually cool. When this game come out? It's Ninja Theory, right? I don't actually know exactly who Ninja Theory are. There's like a mix of all the ninja company. And they're like the game developers of the ninja names. They're all the same to me.
What was it he said? The river of knives across which lies the halls of hell. The place they call Helheim.
You'll take as little voices as you can. Unfortunately, that's kind of the point of this game. I think I gotta leave it on. The volume is great? Oh, thank you. Okay, awesome. It was set pretty low, to be fair. I'm pretty gun shy of having volume loud on the stream, so it's good to know this is fine.
There's no doubt about it. The source of the darkness is in Helheim. And the goddess Hela holds his soul there. Her dear beloved, Dillian.
Dillian. That's like ancient times version of David. Dillian.
What is she doing? Why is she doing
This is a nice little scenery here. I like this. The big old horse there. Horse god? I think that's a horse. Could be a cat.
this in Helheim? His soul still lives. She needs to save his soul. She wants his soul to be at peace.
Oh,
She needs to lay him to rest.
I pressed the button now. That subtitles disappeared.
She can
Had I undisappeared them?
she can do. She thinks she's going to save him. She's not going to
Just pressing buttons there to save my controls there.
I forget its name.
Oh, there it is. I got a sprint. Found it. It's my left bumper. Who puts the run on the left bumper? Sickos.
That part wasn't so easy to forget. The old fool said
I was thinking, like, this is a rather huge area. You're gonna make me sprint for all this. Oh, look at these animations, dude. Ooh. I like the little skip. Remember in, like... Did it fix this in Skyrim? Like, in Oblivion, when you turn on, like, a third-person view and you, like, run, like, backwards or, like, sideways or, like, diagonal, you would always have the same animation of, like, just running forward. That always killed me. I was like, I can't play third-person view because the animations look so jank.
Worlds. The world of men they call Midgard. Sky gods dwell in Asgard. The gods of earth, harvest, wind, and sea dwell in Vanaheim. The good elves dwell in Alfheim. The evil ones dwell in Svartalfheim. The mountain giants
Black
dwell in
elf home?
Jotunheim. The fire giants
Or Black
dwell in
Alpha home,
Svartalfheim.
like.
Niflheim is the world of ice and darkness. Only the dead dwell in Helheim. And that is where you must travel.
I might know a shortcut to get that done, I guess. You might not have to go the boat way. So Ninja Theory, that's the company, right? Again, I mix up all these ninja teams. Like, isn't there like a ninja team that does this, a ninja team that does like Ninja Gaiden, but also like, isn't there like a ninja team that does like Nintendo games? Like maybe no, that's like Rare Team or something. No, no, like not Rare Team. Like Retro Studios or something. I don't know, dude.
this is the right
But then Ninja Theory apparently does, if that's the right company, they do Heavenly Sword, which was fairly mediocre, like a fairly mediocre launch PS3 title, right? It's kind of like God of War, but you're a lady. Enslaved? Which Enslaved? Is it not the Odyssey one, though, right? Because that's Platinum, I think. I don't know Enslaved.
No, this is it. The hidden path.
And a DMC reboot, which is fairly divisive. The Sun Wukong game. I have no idea. Yeah, so I think this company has largely kind of made mid games up until this point. So I think this was really successful for them. Because I think it's like an example of having a lower budget, but still kind of like having high production values.
I find I live longer that way. I'll never let the bastards catch me again. Never! Wait. Who are you? It's just a memory.
Druth? Is that you?
For my tales of the Northmen, they call me Druth. A liar. An old fool. Druth is my truth.
It's good to see you again. You kept your vow.
Guide you in this life and the next. I will tell you my stories of hell, if I may walk.
Yeah, go ahead. You know, we got good company here already. It's plenty of us, plenty of room.
Once again, old friend. I'm listening.
Yeah, Odyssey to the West. Okay, I heard that's a pretty interesting game, and not bad. Just sort of little bit underappreciated, right? Not many sales.
Look really clearly. Focus, Senua. Focus.
I can see one.
Mind's eye. Find one like it to open the gate.
Ah, I see, I see. So it's got an M lock, so we gotta run around until we find an M key then. Oh, there's M's everywhere, dude. How am I supposed to find an M in all this mess? M? No, no climbing. Do not even try. You see a ladder there? No. Oh, I maybe I see. There's like some blue ones. What's up with the M's that are blue? What? M? Oh. Oh. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. You gotta find the sort of symbol anywhere in the environment. Gotcha. And you get the blue things around where the real one is.
The gate is open. Go through the gate.
Go through it.
Sure, okay, jeez, stop nagging on me. I was gonna do it. Okay, Ninja Theory makes this. Team Ninja make Dead or Alive. That's it. Ninja Gaiden.
Watched the Northmen. Learned their ways.
I know you did.
You listened when everyone else laughed.
And it is Stranger Paradise, of course. Great game. I need to play that. I need to play it so bad, man. It looks so fun. No, oh, it changed the control scheme. Yeah, I was walking forward and now I'm gonna walk left. What the hell?
Another voice.
I'm supposed to be able to react to that? Yeah, that's reactable, yeah, sure.
Make them go away. Pretend they weren't real. But what good is that? When we are always here.
Oh, the subtitles are going wide, you're right. Subtitles are like kinda everywhere, but I'm gonna be like, whoop. I'll put myself here. There we go. If I try to put myself on the top, I think it's gonna do the same thing with the extra subtitles that are at the top of the screen. I think the easiest solution I could do is just make myself transparent and
It's going to
put myself as an overlay over the whole game. Maybe that's a good idea.
Did you know that death is near, waiting for you to make that little slip? God,
Good
just
balances.
things away.
Good thing for Senua, I'm a Lord Attorney.
She's terrified. She can do it.
The world of the dead is ruled
I would never fail a manual on her watch.
daughter of Loki. The gods feared her bloodline, bad on her mother's side and yet much worse on her father's. So, as a child, the All-Father cast her down into Helheim and gave her power over those who die of sickness, age, hardship, and self-slaughter. In all of the 9 worlds, only Hela can resurrect the dead. To Hela, your Dillion was sacrificed, and with her you must bargain.
What's self-slaughter? Is that just suicide? Is that a euphemism for suicide? Or are they actually talking about, like, eating yourself? No, wait. In order to, like, slaughter, something has to be killed first, right? Like, I can't be, like, gonna slaughter this person here and just, like, cut off his, like, legs and be like, yum yum, job's done. I didn't want the rest of him anyway. Gonna do a nice self-slaughter next time I get hungry. Gonna locally source all my meats from now on. Very locally.
Stay back. Look at it. You have to open it.
The gate to Helheim divides the living from the dead. Is that the face of Hela herself? The half-rotten goddess that rules over Helheim.
Pretty warm here.
Horrors lie behind that door. She must find him.
It's not even that warm. It's not sure what's going on here. It's not even that warm here. It's like 20, but like it feels warm. I guess it's the humidity or something. Every time I hear this voice, I think of the trailer for the sequel, where it goes, look at the bones. Bones are very funny. Skeletons are very funny. I get it.
You took him from me. I beg you. Let him go. I'll give you what you want.
Some really nice textures in this game. Like, I really like the way the painted skin on it looks. That's really nice. Is it sound desync to purpose? I certainly hope it isn't. I didn't notice any desync there. Oh no, I don't know how to block. How does one block? Ah, there's a block button. I'm just gonna walk over here if you don't mind. Ooh, okay, there's a parry mechanic that I just accidentally did. Not myself an accidental parry. I got a little dash, got a little kick. I got a little heavy swing. Oh, wait, and he's dead. Bonk. Just give him the double bonk, that's enough. On stream, I heard these swords clash for like a full second before it happened. Ugh. Is that happening for everyone? It doesn't look like that's happening on my end, so I'm not sure why I would do that. No, I can't kill these shadow creatures. They're too much. I can parry them though. That was Super Mario? Okay, good. Worrying me here with these fake stream concerns. Thank you though, thank you. You never know if it's on my end or not. It's nice to know and know if anything's awry. Senua, you should moisturize. Come on.
A vision of what's to come. Poor Senua.
Oh, Senua. Okay, I gotcha. Not Senua.
Bargain. It does not reason. It is rot. And now it has taken hold. It will spread towards her head, the seat of the soul, until there is nothing left of her.
Don't scratch! No!
All of her suffering will have been for nothing. It's just a matter.
Oh, this was a controversial mechanic, wasn't it? I'm remembering some discourse about the game at the time now. Will be interesting to see how this plays out.
Taught in the mind. That is what Dillian taught her. With every defeat, the dark rot will grow and soon it will take her soul. But for now, at least, she still has control of her mind.
Ooh,
She will fulfill
sorry. I haven't found my mute button yet.
Listen to me, Senua.
Okay, I found it.
The goddess
I can mute now.
lies behind the gate to Helheim. To open the gate, you must first face the gods that guard it. The god of fire, Surt, and the god of illusion, Valravan. Spill their blood,
Surt.
open the gate to Helheim,
He's a really good persona.
the land of the dead.
That's a bit of combat was very quickly. I thought there was going to be more combat in this game, actually. Not that I'm disappointed in anything, but whenever I've actually seen people play this game, I've always been seen them like fighting guys.
Ancestor
So I'm a bit surprised.
and master of ravens. He hunts his prey with his powers of illusion and feasts on their remains.
Birdman.
Follow the path
These are the guys that sponsor Tony?
in battle to earn his mark. The gate to Helheim cannot be opened without it.
Wait, is it actually did it sponsor him or is it this team? I forgot. It's like in a birdhouse or something, right? I always forget. Did they call him the Birdman? I think they call him the Birdman. Or maybe some people call him the Birdman. I do. Ooh, what's that? That's gotta be something there. It's a disc. Oh, N?
Ymir was a frost giant, a being of darkness, and all his sons and grandsons were dark after him.
Dark after
Of
him?
his daughters and granddaughters,
I guess
some
heritage.
were monsters
Like,
and others
I guess it
fairies.
doesn't say.
But there was another who came from the ice. Buri. In shape, he was like a man, big and powerful. His son, Bor, took a fair giant to be his wife, and they had 3 sons. Odin was the eldest, and the Northmen hold him to be the foremost of the gods, the All-Father.
Gonna grow as a fair wife. Much better than an unfair one. OP wife. Burban is his nickname and the company's bird has. That's it. I was thinking I thought they sponsored them. That ain't right. Or maybe you could say they do that inadvertently. I see. What's this? It's a fidget spinner, dude. Just put a circle around it.
Illusion hides the path to Valravn. Don't trust your eyes. Find another way to see the truth.
No, I don't know how to deal with illusions. I can't just swing my sword at anything. Oh no, this is a find the glyph in the environment sort of thing, isn't it? Maybe? That's a portal though. Okay, I can focus on that, but it doesn't do anything. Hello, welcome. Welcome. We're playing Senua's Sacrifice. No, that's not the name. Hellblade, that's the name. But the subtitle is still Senua's Sacrifice. I'm alright. I'm a bit under the weather today. Got a bit of a cold or something. So excuse any silly noises I make. Also, it's gotta sometimes duck out because I'm gonna do something unflattering. Push it. How do I push? Oh, you push the push button, obviously. But yeah, other than that, I'm all good. Thank you. How you doing? How you getting on? Have you tackened already? You were getting off at some point this week, right? From work. Oh, can I inspect this? 1 second. I just gotta go get a tissue. Don't mind me. Well, alright, much better. Ooh. Not feeling too ill, just got some cold symptoms happening. Off today. Nice. That's awesome. And got it installed. Hell yeah. Had doctor's appointments earlier and just been feeling pretty weird, so no video games yet. Yeah, I know the feeling. Sometimes if you just don't have the energy, it's just not as tempting to get into anything like that. Can I just walk through it? Oh, there we go. Doors open.
It's funny.
Can I jump? No.
Behind the veil, don't we? Once we do, we mostly just close our eyes again and pretend what we saw was never really there.
Okay, that's a cute little mechanic. Or I don't know if that's gonna be a mechanic. It seems like there's different solutions to the problems each time I find a door like that now. Whoop. Feels like there might be like a new puzzle each time.
Senua never could close her eyes. However hard she tried. Begged.
This game does look quite nice. I do like it aesthetically, even if it has aged a little bit, but it holds up really well. It's a really pretty game. This game is a lot of wonky environmental puzzles from what I've seen. It wasn't what I thought. I was sort of lost interest.
Things differently.
That's too bad.
Because once you gaze into
Yeah,
the boundless darkness,
seems like
all that lurks within it.
that's sort of my not my impression, but my impression is that it isn't quite what I thought it was going to be for sure. Yeah, I think that's seems to be a thing with this game. Maybe that's it's a bit unclear on first impressions what the game actually is. Because I thought it was just going to be like a quite combat heavy bit of an action game. Like I kind of thought it was an action RPG before I actually started the game. Because I've seen these bits, you know.
You're close.
Is it always just 2 swings? Yep. Wait, no, where's my kill?
They surrounded you. Not strong enough.
They're like kind of fading out each time, right? They look a bit more dusty every time. Bonk. No, come on! Cheater! I love the parry. It's really fun.
She will find what she's looking for.
It's nice that they have the exact same attack timing every time as well on the attack they do when they approach you. They never do like a different attacks. It's very predictable. Oh, it's a symbol.
Valravan's
Which one we saw before?
comes from ravens. Align the ravens to break his magic seal.
Okay, yes.
Show me what you have seen, Truth.
Yeah, so now we're gonna do a bit of the first environmental puzzle we got done. We gotta like find that symbol elsewhere in the world, right? What's the name of this? Why is it like shiny? I'm gonna get so stuck on some of these puzzles, aren't I? It's gotta be like a perspective thing here, right? Like look at the things in a certain way and it forms a symbol.
To break the seal, align the ravens with the mark of Valravan.
Yeah, like that. Not too bad.
Something's happened. Something's shifted.
I thought it was like an action horror sort of thing. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's exactly my impression from the pictures and everything. What I thought this game would be like. Also, mechanically, like I heard big thing of this game was like not permadeath, but like yeah, I guess it's like a permadeath sort of thing. I heard that. I was like, oh, it's a survival horror thing.
It's like crossing into another world that looks the same but feels different. An imposter world where the forest itself is watching. Another gate.
Another gate.
I do. It's the same symbol.
It's not safe. Don't
To break the seal, align the ravens with the mark of Valravan.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, and there's the portal up there. Okay, so they do mix and match these mechanics a little bit then, so there's a thing. Are there like eyes opening? Yeah, there are in the environment. That's interesting. I wasn't quite sure if I actually saw that there or not there. Excuse me?
I hear something.
How do I get up here? Maybe this is one of those jokesters, you know, they're not there for an actual purpose, it's just there.
There's illusions. You can't always trust your eyes.
can I open this door though? Oh, nah, it's a joke door. Don't even try. You're silly. I am a little bit lost. Tried to go for a joke though, but certainly did not put a smile on my face. I'm pretty sad about it. Can I go here? So I definitely want to get up around there, right? Yeah, up there, that's where I want to be. I guess maybe I might have a perspective enough if I go up these stairs here. I can try. No, that's not enough at all. Not even close. Oh, hang on, what's up with these gates here? What's the deal? Does anything happen if I go through them? Oh, hello, the stuff. I found it.
Challenge me.
No, it's just a totem guy. I thought he wanted to fight. Well, it's not much of a fight with those legs. Like little sticks, because that's exactly what they are. Some weird filter on the screen sometimes. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, around these things. I'm not entirely sure what the deal with these things are. I can see them around and they stand out because they got like a gold sheen on all the bones. But nothing seems to actually happen when I interact with it. Yeah, things are the same inside and outside of the arch too. Wait. Oh, hello. There's a fella. Oh, a fake fella, but a fella nonetheless. Any fella in a storm. I'll take him. I'm gonna try not to take my eyes off him, but he might disappear just with that tree there. He is surrounded by 2 trees right now, so yeah. And here's this thing again. Is it just gonna point me at the objective maybe? Like if I go for it, I'll go roughly towards the objective.
Before the tragedy, she journeyed into the wilds of her native land, living off
Oh, shortcut, I guess.
uncommonly seen.
It's just like Resident Evil.
Again,
Wow, gamers, is this a bit like Dark Souls, or am I crazy?
search of penance. Others, like Senua, to purge a curse. Those who make it back.
You could even say that that door there did not open from this side. Souls? That's basically just like Dark Souls. I may have said something similar when we started the game up. I said, I don't know what genre this is, but I know it has swords. So it's basically just an RPG, right? So you may jokingly say that, but I may have already made a statement that foolish. So. If anything, you're just roasting me right now. There it is. The portal. So go through it, right?
She can get up now. What's happening? She can get up now. How can she get out?
Okay, don't be so impressed. Jeez.
Raven, tricking her. Raven, how can she get out? Wait, it's him. Dark magic draws her closer. It's not.
I don't know what
It's
changed.
a trick. She's doing it on her own. He's not tricking her. It's magic. It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. What are you hiding? Maybe I've done the thing already? I just can't see exactly what changes. Or like, what part of the archer should go through. Was that guy there before? Like pointing like this? I don't think you were. I'm just gonna go down and... Oh no, the staircase! It's repaired. We're good. That's what's changed. We got it. Something tells me something wants me to follow. I don't know what to think. This thing follow, the word follow, it's not like I know what they are. There we go. It's a fixed staircase. And now we can, there we go, line them up. Beautiful. Can I rappel down as a rope? No? Ah, coward game. Jeez. You're not even gonna give me a grappling hook? Imagine making a video game and not letting me double jump and grapple around. Ridiculous.
We picture fear, and we think of a shadow in the woods, creature in the night. If only it were that
An elephant. Maybe. Oh, it could be a mammoth. It could be neither.
first kind comes without warning.
Maybe it's one of those Lord of the Rings
Primal
creatures. The elephants, you know? Definitely not an elephant.
a reminder that just because you cannot see the threat, it doesn't mean that it's not.
Oh,
already
what's this? I'll try the door first. It's gonna say no. You may not open door, yeah.
She can't go in there. Behind there? Barevan, he's there. She can't go in. Has to find another route. Druth says there's always another route. Find a way, Senua. Go round.
Oh,
Your own path. Is it different?
it's like a weird overlay over everything. Yeah, there is. It's like a weird flashy overlay over everything. Oh, a new exit. Oh no, a creature, whatever shall I do? Oh my god, what the hell is this? I can't believe I didn't parry. That's embarrassing. You didn't see that, no one saw that. I shouldn't have said anything. That was my downfall there. I was just taunting the game. Bit too slow on that one. Two of them? This is getting out of hand.
Let them surround you. Behind you.
Oh, they do actually warn me about things that happen.
It's nearly over. Finish it.
I thought when they said behind me, they were just starting to like fuck with me. Like I was like, I'm not gonna listen to that voice. They don't just want me to die. They just want to trick me. Really scared of parrying that one. Man, I love that I can reversal parry in this. Like just as I can input a button, I can just parry right away. Whoop.
The Northmen say that Odin and his brothers killed Ymir, and that the world of men was formed from his corpse. They made his bones into stone, and his flesh into earth, and his blood into the salt sea. They set his skull to be the bowl of the sky, with his brains for clouds. Odin and his brothers caught the sparks flying from Muspel and made them into stars. And to protect the new world from the giants, they used Ymir's great curving eyebrows as walls.
And poor guy, like, they did not let any of him go to waste, eh? I have not seen The Northman, but I did see a lot of people enjoying the movie. I should watch it. I guess it's probably not in theaters anymore. Hopefully it'll be for streaming on whatever site soon. So I'm quite interested in watching that. You should have grabbed the chair monitor. That would have been funny. Would have been sent to like a gamer chair or something. Now you'll never know. Oh, there's a guy. There's a fella.
Do you know what it's like to leave everything behind?
Who is that?
Your home, loved ones,
No, it's a fake fella.
deep into the wilds, perhaps never to return. Senua does. Because when darkness speaks, it changes everything.
You gotta flip that bridge over there.
Foreign land and
Oh, hello. No, never mind.
into strangers.
I wonder if these arches work in the same way as the other portal things.
That you were never really home in the first place.
Oh yeah, like weird thing. When I first started streaming this game, it was like lag as all hell. Have you ever seen a game just do this? Like, look at me turn on DirectX 12 now. Oops. And it just, oh no, now it works. Like the game was like choppy as all hell, and like the only thing we changed was like DirectX 12 and just put it onto 11, and then it was totally fine. I've never seen anything like that. I usually like I get an option and it like doesn't change a thing really, right? Like in Civ 6 maybe, like you got a few more glitches or something on like on like different DirectX's, but I feel like I mostly had the same performance. It's in the DX12 break shit before. Yeah, I've seen it break stuff, and I've never seen it become like 10 FPS. It was like unplayably choppy. It was really weird. It might have been like a pre-rendered cutscene maybe, and that's why it was choppy. So I gotta get on the other side here. How do I get the... Oh, that's the thing. I should go to that first, I guess. Then look around. There's a lot more like environmental puzzles than I expected. That seems to be like the main mechanic of the game so far, really. Too many puzzles, I can't take it anymore.
The song. Valravan's song.
We can do... Oh, hello, what's this?
It's over here.
Fire.
It's over here. He's there. It's over there.
Is that anything?
It's here. There's two. Which one?
Yeah, there's two fires, yeah.
Listen, focus. Listen, focus. It's magic. It's magic.
It's magic.
She's been in the forest like this before. This
What?
reminds her of somewhere. The forest.
Is the fire important? I don't know if it is.
Which forest? The forest in the
I
wild.
do get a weird effect from it.
She left Ian. She went to the wilds a long time ago. Why did she go to the wilds?
She wanted to fight her own darkness. She thought she could beat her own darkness.
Did she beat her darkness?
No. It nearly killed her, but she tried.
Druth helped her.
If it wasn't for Druth, she'd be
be
dead.
I might be messing around with nothing here. I can't tell.
She wanted to marry Dillian.
I guess I'm gonna run around a little bit first.
Her own darkness.
Oh, it might just be introducing fire. There's like a fire here too.
She thought her curse.
Maybe, I don't know, no?
The curse would spread to him.
Because it's like any fire is a bit like weird when I focus.
She nearly died.
She thought the curse made her tainted.
Druth helped her.
Whoop. Fine. Don't get it. Maybe I can like line the fire up with other fires. Maybe something happens then. Not really. There's an archway there. I guess I'll go through that and see if that does anything. I still need to kick that bridge though. Alright, so if we go through here. I don't know. It seems kind of the same to me. I think I walked through the right side of it too. Nope, no, can't go there. It seemed to kind of like indicate the fire in a big way. Like the fire was really important. But I can't really see how or why. Oh, hello. Oh no, never mind. This is just a focusing thing, but I can't. I can't do this. There's an arch thing up there. I guess I can try getting there. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the terrain here. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I am lost, boys. So we go this way. I can at least kick down a bridge here. And that might be important for that arch there, right? That is just like Dark Souls. Open the shortcut. Then there's a door here. Or is there a stunt door? That's fake. Not from the side. Wow. I guess that's important. There's got to be an important reason why I could just run around like that. What's this door for? Maybe the fire? No. Oh, there's an arch. Wait, what? I've never seen it just drop anywhere before. Games usually like, no, do not go there, you'll fall, you hurt yourself, silly. It just let me fall off that, that's weird. It feels important that I can do that.
The Northmen say you must sacrifice
Like the
in
movie.
order to receive. They tell how the runes were revealed to Odin only in sacrifice. He hung himself from the world tree, and he stabbed himself with a spear, and he dedicated the sacrifice to himself.
Can you do that?
For 9 nights he hung on the
That's a
tree
cheat.
without food or drink, and at last he saw the runes below him.
The rune stones, he saw
Gathered
them.
them in his mind and learnt them. Then he fell from the tree.
Man, 9 days at food and drink, I better than 1. That's gonna be miserable. I would not be happy. Would not be best pleased. Like days where you have to like fast to like a doctor appointment or something the next day. Those are like the worst, man. I don't know how anyone can do that. Well, I know because I did it multiple times, but I was very sad about it. Okay, we got some lore. Open the door. I flipped the bridge. I got this bridge. Can I do anything with this? Oh, there's another bridge there. I can just try running around and see if I can open that too. Oh, that's the one I need. That's the last one. So I probably can't just go around and flip the bridge then. Unless. Nah. It's gotta be a puzzle for that. They're not just gonna let me just run there. So maybe this is where that arch becomes important. Now that I opened the door and everything. Oh yeah, there's this weird place. I don't know what the deal with this place is. Like I got here and I couldn't really do anything. Yeah, I can't climb that. There's the fire, but I didn't understand the fire at all. I'm gonna say this is not important yet. I remember having no liquid before some surgery years ago. That sucked. Oh, no liquid. Fuck. Yeah, that sucks, man. Yeah. Eesh. That sucks. See, I'm on the no food, and I had to do like tons and tons of liquid, which was also torturous in its own way, because there was just too much liquid. But I would not enjoy not drinking anything, man. I feel like there used to be bridges here, and they're gone now. What's the deal with that? Okay, hang on. No, don't go through here. Walk through here. And then walk here? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Oh, hang on, it's different now. Okay, yeah, okay. Because this used to be like broken. It's like I couldn't just like run in here. So I could just run in here and open this door. Is this place different now that it's not broken? Maybe upstairs is? Oh, it might be because I might be able to run around up there a bit more now. I don't know if I had access to this arch here before. Yeah.
The ravens. They've gone. No.
Half of them have gone.
Oh, we've done it.
Ravens helping.
Now we're just in a better angle.
It's a trick. Quiet. Where have they gone?
Out in the wilds. In the cold winter woods. She no longer felt fit for this world.
Just going around with both arms completely unpossessed, wearing a shirt and stuff.
Darkness.
She does have a tube top. Who needs her sleeves when you got
She
that?
remembered
That's all you
your
need.
words. She remembered her promise.
I myself would have put on a shirt in this situation though. It's pretty nice.
And kill that which had become a part of her.
Can I make this jump? No, but I can fall off. That'll do. Alright, so now I'm gonna be a bit confused as to where to go next. So I halved the ravens. So that's good, supposedly. But where do I go next? Because I can't get across here. Because there's a gap. Hang on, can I just drop down here? No, I can't. Some of this I can, and some of them I can't. It's a bit arbitrary. What are these effigies helping in? Oh! There's a plank here now. Ah, there is something that's changed. Very good. I guess I kind of understand the archers then, where to go in and stuff. So I keep wondering if I'm going in the right direction or not. It's not like it tells you that you've activated the archer or anything when you've interacted with it, you know? You just do it and gotta hope something's changed. And it's not immediately obvious what's changed even. There we go, even less. There's enough. So I need to go down again now, I guess.
I was so naive to think she could banish it on her own. The further she saw into the darkness.
I feel like with this puzzle here, it wouldn't matter if there were decoy ravens. Because you just find the ones that lined up with the door, right?
Of shape, sound, thought, grow in strength until they consumed her whole. Before she knew it, the darkness had her in its claws.
I feel like that wasn't aligned as well before as it was now.
Victory when it comes to the darkness.
But maybe you can just solve this by just going to the right place.
Doesn't want to kill Lily. Yet, it will gnaw at her, biding its time.
I got totally blank about the fire thing though. I thought the fire thing was going to be an important thing.
Will it strike to kill? Will she find Dillian before her time comes?
Right. So, get back to the door then. Maybe do a shorter combat segment once we've done the door as well. I'm hedging my bet on that. Fire looks a bit janky, doesn't it? It's like this fire JPEG floating around it. Disembodied fires. There was a guy and he's gone now. Has he perhaps teleported into this very arena looking area?
Overcome Valravan's final illusion to face him in his keep. I know you can do it, Senua. You have the sight.
We both see the darkness. We can fight it together.
Oh, there's a thing. It's like a nest up there. I guess we can go up there to find a smooth and silkies. Offers nice trade deals. Or maybe I can just use it as a bridge if I can get it. Ooh. Oh, there's a little plank bridge here. Come on, you can get up there. There's a little light hiking. Come on. Come on. Now that's gotta be an illusion then. I gotta do something to fix that ramp there, right? It's gonna be like less rubble once I do something over somewhere. I don't suppose I can just do something already, right? Oh no, no, they're like completely misaligned. They need to be dropped down a bit or something. But how do I get up there? Nope. 1 second. Never mind, I thought I had a sneeze in me there. There was no sneeze. None detected. Oh, hello, hang on. Did I see this ladder here before? I don't think I did. Yeah, here we go. So is this gonna fix the bridge then? Maybe.
Speak to me,
I
Drew.
can't exactly tell what's changed.
Tell me a story.
I think that's the idea. But I think maybe that bridge surely has to be the important thing though.
The Northmen captured Finland's sister, and his father sent him to pay for her release. But they took his gold, put him in chains, and held him for a day and a night without food or water. Then they released him.
No?
I don't know why.
What's going on? Oh, can I go up here now?
Return.
Oh,
His
I
father's
can.
enemies in
They did
Erin
fix
set
it.
fire to his home. His father burnt to death, and his brother was killed. But he escaped with sorrow in his heart. His father's enemies offered redress for his loss and invited him to a feast. It was at a hall near the sea. But when he went there, they betrayed him to the Northmen, who enslaved him and took him to hell.
I hate it when that happens.
6 years later,
You're gonna go to a dinner party and just take me to hell.
burning all before them. And into that fire, Findan made his escape. What was Findan burnt away that day. But from the flames,
Oh, hello.
a new man
I'll spurge it all over it.
and
Rose.
was born. Druth. The man that I am now.
Okay, so I did go through an arch up there, so maybe something's different now? Oh yeah, it is.
Again,
I think there's a line up now.
I, Druth, have found you, Senua.
No, I have to get up to the nest, don't I?
I've seen my home before these dark times.
Oh, maybe I can go from over there, maybe. Did anything at all change? And I went through that arch there. I can't tell if anything changed or not. It doesn't look like it. Hang on, no, what, really? I'm just gonna trust that something changed. I'm gonna go back here. I'm pretty sure I walked through the arch the right way. Oh yeah, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten the talkie-walkie bits, right? So I did something right. It's gonna tell exactly what I did right. Yeah, like, yeah, I obviously gotta stand from the nest there, otherwise these aren't gonna line up, right? I guess that branch there might lead me up. But I don't know how to get on the branch. Yeah, this doesn't look like the way. Unless maybe walking through this arch again is gonna fix something in one way or another. If it did... Oh, I see. Yeah, it moved the branches, right? Yeah, I see what it did now. Yeah, there's like a tree there now. I guess I want a tree though. Can't tell if anything else changes but that branch though. I guess I'll just cross the bridge I made again and see exactly what the top arch there does. But yeah, I have to go the branch there in order to get there. Not exactly sure what that shortcut was for. Like it was right there, yeah, there. So why would I need that? Like, opened? This seems kind of weird. That I'm missing something. Okay, so, yeah, so this thing here makes the plank there? Is that all it does? It just makes the plank? Oh, no, 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 hang on, look. That's why I want the shortcut unlocked, yeah. It deletes that branch there. But it makes a plank, so now I don't need a plank anymore. I'll just make the branch again. And I can use the bridge and give it the tree that way. Yeah. Right, so they can both delete and create things. That makes sense. Nope. No. I'm too good at Tony to fall off this this branch here. Not happening today. Doing a bonus 50-50 all the way up here. Oh.
Broken. The gate is open.
This darkness. I know it from the wilds. It's coming back for me.
The birds.
I'm still here. Are you too? Where are we? I remember.
It's a good lesson. Don't make enemies of your local birds. Or this will happen to you.
Well in the wilds. It never does. You think you can overcome the darkness, make sense of it, and once relief settles in, it strikes out of nowhere, throwing you helplessly back into the maelstrom, drowning the mind in fear, deeper, dragging you down so far into the void that maybe this time there is no coming back. But there, in the darkness,
Senua,
and she remembered what he told her.
hear me. Reach out to me. Senua, take my iron mirror. Look into it, for it is a window into the underworld.
Oh. Have we got a mobile world-changing thing now?
Darkness that you fear. And if you focus, like I have taught you to, you will also see that as much as the darkness has you trapped within its veil, it too is trapped within yours. Focus. Focus! Focus!
I see.
Oh.
You
It's a boss fight. Maybe.
You trapped me there.
And we got a sky mirror now. Oh, rude. Wonder if I can parry him. Yeah, I can. Okay, cool.
She will die. Stop.
Don't want to parry that though. That's gonna get me killed. That one's easy because I know when the second hit is coming, at least. Don't throw shit at me. Well, I wonder if I parry that, if I'll like throw it back or something. That'd be neat. I'm not gonna try. I don't know if I get like that much of a benefit from parrying actually. It feels good though. Like the ching! That's really good. That's really nice. It feels good. It's visually a nice feeling getting that. Oh, you broke your ice tray. That sucks. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Sometimes they're just a bit crap, aren't they? I had an ice cube tray as well that I broke in the spring. Like when I was getting ice out of the tray, I just snapped the tray in half. Good thing I had several of them. I kind of wish I had like a soft one instead. Oh, I do bounce it back. That's nice. Oh, and I'm very plus up as well. That's nice. Oh, dash in. Oh, I can just hold it to run. Okay, nice. I probably should dodge that. I don't think it hurts me at least. Oh, whoops. Ouch. Wait, what happened? Wait, did I do something right or wrong there? I felt like I did something bad and then I did something right. I really should dodge that. Oh, there's a really big reward for parrying sometimes then. Yeah, that was huge. I keep trying to parry that one though, it doesn't work. I think they're just gonna dodge that, but it doesn't hurt me, so I think it's fine.
She's nearly there. She's strong. Find a good position.
Friggin' ads, get out of here. Oh, they're not even trying. Oh, no, it's trying, it's trying. It's kind of looked like they were T-posing at me for a second. Oh, no, that's a bad time to heavy attack.
End it. End it. Go! Fight again. Spill their blood. Behind
Oh. I can't really handle groups of 3 in this game, I don't think. I think I just guard, like, back off. Oh, they're really lenient though. They don't even try to approach, really, so you better just, like, back off them. Oh.
Take him down.
It's no punishment for them deflecting me there, because like as soon as I can make a move again, I can just parry them.
Focus. Focus. Focus now.
No, I can barely see it. It's a bit hard to parry it if I can't see it like this. Oh, okay, there we go.
Stop them.
Oh no, I just gotta dodge that. I keep forgetting. So now it does a drill attack, right? No, now it does a jump. Yeah, I never remember the jump. Now it's a drill. The drill's way faster than I expect as well. Focus. Oh, hang on. They actually have to focus. It's the only way, yeah. I thought they were just saying focus at me. I forgot that focus was like a mechanic of this game.
The mark of Valravan, one of the keys to the gate to Helheim. Hold it in your mind's eye.
With every battle, the darkness grows stronger. Every victory bringing her closer to defeat. Unfair, isn't it? In those dark winter nights in the wilds, there were times when she considered letting go. If it weren't for truth, a chance encounter in the wilds, she would not have heard his stories of the Northmen. And she would not have this chance to find Dillion's soul.
I'm coming.
Not on my watch.
I still hear you.
You better let me know so I can turn off the stream. It's nice that hallucinations and tormentors sometimes decide to be a tutorial, yeah. Yeah, otherwise, I would not have thought of using this thing. This is what this button normally does, this focus thing. So I did not think about doing this during combat, like my focus button. I had no intentions of pressing that button ever, so it's nice that they just kept using the word for that mechanic over and over until I did it. And I wasn't gonna trust the voices for a while either, because they mostly just say unhelpful things. But around the 350th focus, I think it may be. Yeah, and once you said focus in chat as well, I was like, oh, maybe they got a point. Maybe I should try focusing. Yeah, the moment's different. I don't remember the weather before, but it was definitely not this sunny before. And yeah, I want a rubber, ice tray as well now.
Stare at the clouds.
I was using one in Finland, and I much prefer it to the plastic ones, which are brittle and crap.
Shifting faces. After a while, she could see the faces everywhere. The trees, the mountains, caves.
Now that we've done that boss fight, though, and we got a bit of relief in the game pace here, maybe it is a good time for a break. I should try having these breaks like every hour at least, like hour and a half or something. So I think this would be a great time. So I'll just leave us here, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes ish. Yeah. I like this game. It's turned out to be a bit more like puzzle focused than I expected it, but I'm having a good time with it. I'm looking forward to see how the rest of the game is going to shake out. Yeah, I just really like the environment as well. Like the presentation of the game is really pretty. Like and the characters as well. Like aesthetically, it's a really pretty game, and I'm really appreciating that. Alright, break time. See you all in 5 minutes. Be right back. Alright, hello! Hello. I'm back. Welcome back, anyone who are back already. Let's get on with it. I still don't understand what these things are. This must be important, but I can't tell. Thank you, thank you. You too. Unless you were here this whole time. Maybe. Nothing up here. I guess there's not too much of a need to really explore this game, is there? Until like you have puzzles to solve. It's not like there's like items to pick up or anything. Look at the bones. This guy's greedily watching his money, making sure no one gets it. You can only imagine what he does to the worms. Oh, it's the horse god creature thing. I guess that's the milestone that we kind of like chasing. Yeesh. Yeesh, that's a lot of guys. You couldn't quite tell what that was for a second. It's a pile of lads.
I wonder. Can you see the faces too? They're there. If you look for them.
Kind of. I mean, that rock there kind of looks like a bear, right? And that there kind of looks like the face of a guy. There's a nose there in the middle. Mouth under. Oh, hello. That's an actual face.
Senua, you have the sight. Just like I do. Once you can see into the underworld and all the souls within it will see you.
Interesting.
Don't be afraid when they speak to you. I will always be here.
Okay, I'll be a little bit afraid when they go speak to me, but sure. I'll try my best.
That was her mother, Galina. She was a priestess, a healer. She taught Senua to see the weave that binds the world together. And it was beautiful. It was a time before the darkness. But when it did come, it first came for her mother. Senua still sees her
Oh.
face from time to time.
I feel like I got a puzzle on my hands here. Unless this is a puzzle we already solved. I'm not sure. It might be kind of like backtracking through areas we've already been in, right?
She misses her so much.
Yeah, these are like backtracky bits. I don't know if we... Yeah, because we dispelled all the illusions now, right? So, oh, and no, we haven't. Okay, no mind. I thought we killed the guy. I guess his illusions are still here. I'm really curious how the sequel's gonna shake out. Like, if they're gonna do something more of the same or completely different. We didn't really see much other than like a cinematic trailer, right? I feel like what I saw in the trailer looked very different from what I'm playing right now. You know?
Ymir was a frost giant, a being of darkness, and all his sons and grandsons were dark after him.
Oh, so when I focus on that, it changed the environment around me as well.
Some were monstrous with others.
We already listened to that one, that's why I'm just running away right now. Oh, hello. Oh, it's a different guy. Hello. Oh, that's not the block button.
Finish this! Don't let them get behind you. Keep them in.
That's a nice warning. They give it a warning just in time that they can kind of parry them behind you, actually, not even seeing them. I guess they want me to get out there, so that might be like a call for like, maybe you shouldn't block this, maybe you should actually dodge out the way here. They don't always do it though.
Defend yourself.
She doesn't cleave very well at all, does she? She really only kind of like attacks whatever she's locked onto. So there's really no benefit at all to like attacking enemies that are close together. You should always just try to split them up. Well, no, she can sometimes do it. Oh, I did not see that attack though. That attack was hiding behind Senua's model. Oh, is that bit dead?
Get up quickly.
Nah, I'm fine.
She's injured. She can still do it. She's hurt. She won't make it.
I'm not sure how to connect blows with this guy. Oh, that's the attack I want. I think there's regenerating health, right? So if I take a lot of hits like that, I'll probably just walk away. It seems like there's regenerating health in this. Can't quite tell.
Get out of the way.
God, shield enemies are just always the worst, aren't they? I hate them.
She'll die.
Oh, it's dodge attacks. Okay, that's good. That's good. That feels like what I want here. Like that.
Watch out.
Do very little damage though. Slowly chipping at him. Hey T, welcome! Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you. I hope you well. You joined us just in time to see me get whooped by this rude boy. He's got a shield, so I can't damage him.
Go.
I feel like I'm in a loop right now. Oh, I find they parried him. But I don't get a reward for it. I think I got him in the loop as well. So heavies doesn't do make much of a difference either.
Hurt. There's blood.
I guess he kind of looks a bit beat up. I don't know if it looked like this before, so I might be making some progress. Am I close? This guy must be so mad right now. Oh my god, Senua's cheating me! She's just looping me with dashes and iframes! Oh my god, he's dead. There must have been a better way to attack that guy.
Why won't it open?
There must have been a better way.
Hasn't challenged.
Friggin' shield guys, man, I hate them. I hate them so much. Yeah, so we got the sigil there of Yerp. And we got Surt there on the left. We got Surt. So we did the door of Raven something, Waffelheimen, I think it was name was Waffelheim. So there's a Surt, so I guess you can just open this one now, right? And then we can go to Hell.
Surt, the fire giant, has answered. He comes from a land older than mankind. And the Northmen call upon his flaming sword to raise their enemies to the ground.
I always wondered how that guy's name is pronounced. Because there's an R there. Is it Surted? Or is it just Surt? It's quite uncommon to have like
The wilds.
a consonant after a T like that. It's like R.
Badly burnt all over. She took pity on him,
So I don't actually know how he would say that.
like her, who spoke of his own darkness. The Northmen.
I'm gonna assume it's kind of like Surted. But it might just be a silent R. In which case, why is it even there? Why have a silent letter at the end of the word if it's just silent? A silent letter even. I see your face.
We each walk these lands, gazing towards different horizons. Some of us further than others. Your father cannot see what you see, but there is nothing wrong with seeing the world the way you do.
That's reassuring. Thank you. Even though I have to beat up bird guys trying to kill me. The birdman himself has come to defeat me. There's nothing wrong with that. Oof, really stiff in my neck today. Oofa. Oofa doofa. NY, New York, here we come. Oh no! They're so generous at iframes and everything in this game, man.
Find a good position.
Like, how many active frames does this parry have? I kind of want to think I'm a parry god, but I feel like it's easier to not get a to get a parry than not. Oh no, not these guys again. Oh, rude. It's gonna regen some health, the mummy. Back off! Back off! I'm Wolverining over here! Oh, I forgot there's a kick in this game. Oh my god, could I ever kick the shield or something? That sounds like an anti-shield strategy.
He's down. Finish it. Finish it. Strike. There he is. In front of you. She's got her sword. Prepare your behind you.
Oh, that's what that thing earlier was when I accidentally did this. You can like time stop when you focus. I forgot about that. So it's not just for like killing ghosts, but it's like... Ah. I'm not entirely sure how to monitor when I have that available. I guess it might be related to my mirror, right? Wait, I can parry that?
Take him down. Take him down. Get him now.
This is Dark Souls after all. Yeah, that's a proper time stop there. It just, like, until I make an action, time's just frozen. Been on your bike and your spines pieces. That's rough, man. I guess you should probably rest for a few days until you get back on a day. Hopefully you're not relying on it to get to the office or something. And hopefully you're actually not in the office as well. Let's frig the office. Frig it. You're not even supposed to be there. One day a month has become 2 days. Ugh. Ugh, that's twice as many days. Unbelievable. I'm blown now. Rip. Rip to a real one. Bosses just couldn't help themselves, you know. What were they gonna do? Just sit in there and like not have anyone to gloom over and like loom over watching? Can't even watch the workers work? They just go to the office to have meetings, and then there's not even anyone there to like loom over and like make sure that all the workers are working like the good gutter boys they are. Can't say I know where to go. Oh, hang on. Why? Can I get an N anywhere? No, maybe not. What am I missing? I'm focusing. Oh wow, I just didn't go close enough for the room.
The sweet, sickly stench of burning human flesh. And I still hear their cries carried in the wind. You hear them too, Senua?
Yes, I heard their screams, and I still hear them now.
Liar, I can hear what you're hearing. There's no screams here. Also, you can definitely squeeze through the gap in the door there. Look at that, that's huge. Come on, squeeze through. NY. So that's Y there. These are Ys, but where's N? It's gotta be up here. Because this place here seems a bit pointless otherwise, like, right? Why would it even go up here? Oh, that's the H. HN. And Y there as well. Hey, come on. Do I have to get a specific one? Can't quite see where the trailer's going. There we go. Oh, I want onto the stick in front of it. Yeah, so it had the eye in it too. I see.
Look towards the gate, and you will see that it has opened.
Guy's not lying, the door's open.
My lands, I knew enough of their tongue to beg for mercy, and they took me as a slave. I wish now that they had slaughtered me like the others. I rode their storm of fire, death, slavery to many lands. This darkness you speak of? I know it well.
Cert.
I'm still here to fight it.
Oh, hello.
So weak, they can see you're weak.
Oh, I tried the time stop there. It doesn't always let me, so there's gotta be some resource to it. Yeah, it's my mirror thing. Oh! Is that my reward for parrying? You reckon? Or maybe it's a reward for killing something. Stop hiding behind the shield, friend. Oh no, that's a stabby! I was waiting for him to do like an overhead swing there and just poked at me.
End it!
End it now. It's nearly the end. Don't let them get behind you.
Don't let them surround you. Behind you!
Two of them? This is getting out of hand again. At least that guy doesn't have a shield.
Behind you.
Yeah, that does seem to be a way to get the shields a bit taken care of. Yeah, that guy's a bit like tired now as well after I bonked him. Not quite the way I intended it, but it works.
Behind you. It's nearly over.
Finish it.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, I really don't like using the heavies because they really punish you for using it. Like the moment you started, they just hit you. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, fuck me. I get another chance, I think. Yeah, I'm fine. We're okay. Sometimes it doesn't let me input dodge. I don't know exactly why. I was just mashing dodge there and it didn't get it. No, I was mashing block, but it didn't let me do it. I think it would rather let me mash dodge sometimes than block. Yeah, like that, I could actually mash dodge there, but I couldn't block.
Take it down now.
That's something to think of, I guess.
He's gone.
There we go, that's how we do it. Oh, not a shield guy! Oh, they're total chumps! As long as you just get the shield bash move right. Total chumps. Yeah, I think you just have to do that once and then and they can't block anymore. Oh, I got that really fun fight earlier. Quote unquote really fun, where we just spun around the guy forever, I guess. That was an experience still.
When you see a fire gate of Surt, know that only a sacrifice will stoke the fires of Muspel and let the dead walk through. Find the fire, Senua, to follow the path.
Now the fire is important, maybe. I do like the combat of this though, and they have like not held your hand at all about like anything in this, which has been interesting. Like they really just haven't told you like about stunning enemies or when to use heavies or time step or whatever. You kind of just like sort of organically discover everything as you muck around with it, and that's kind of nice. It's not like Doom Eternal, where you find a new enemy and it just does like a tutorial how to kill the enemy. That like blew me away when I played that. I couldn't believe that they had implemented the feature like that. Like, when you see a new enemy, and it does, like, a little box saying, like, do this is the weakness of this enemy. And then it, like, plays a video for you to watch of how to do the thing. And it's like, wow, way to take any tension out of this. Sheesh. It even did it on the bosses. I think, if I remember rightly. Oh, I see. There's like a different sort of scenery depending on the thing we're chasing.
Hell will not give you the answers you want. But you mustn't look away from the horrors it does offer. Because you cannot overcome suffering if you refuse to look at it.
Sure thing.
Where's it gone?
That's some good advice, maybe.
It's disappeared.
It was everywhere.
The pyre.
Cert.
Cert is through
Waiting
there.
for you. He's waiting for her.
Oh, Pyre. That's a game I should play.
How will she get through?
She'll need to find another way.
Truth. Cert.
Keep forgetting about that game.
Own power.
Pyre's a little bit overshadowed by the other games, isn't it?
Always away.
Find your own.
Still sounds like a good game in its own right.
Cert is waiting for you. It was never going to be the
Hello?
He's waiting.
Lord?
Tell the story. Before the Earth was created, there was a world called Muspel. Because it was in the south, it was bright and hot, flaming, burning.
Much like everywhere right now.
Sparks that flew out from Muspel became the stars. Other sparks melted ice in the frozen world of Niflheim, creating the body of the first giant, Ymir. Muspel is one of the 9 worlds, and is now the land of fire giants. And people from elsewhere
Oh! You kidding me? Okay, I think that was all of it. But I figured I could like activate the stun and like keep walking. But no, I was too far away from the rocks. I couldn't hear couldn't hear what they said in the end. So I guess I do just have to chill with the voice over them. It's bad.
fire, Senua, to follow the path to Surt.
The fire. Did I see a fire anywhere? I don't feel like I did.
It's too far.
She'll never find it. She'll never make her way back.
She needs to remember the way back.
What happens when she finds it?
Everything will burn.
Concentrate on where you're going. She needs to remember the path.
Everything will burn. Then how will she find the way back?
She will.
Okay, I think I should remember the way back. Yeah, not any fire will do. I have to find like the pie, I don't know.
The Northmen made fire sacrifices, burning slaves like me to reveal the path to Surt. I searched for meaning in their suffering, in their eyes. But they just screamed like helpless pigs.
I think I know the way back. It was pretty straightforward. Let's get over the plank. There we go. It's gonna be a bit weird with all the fire around there, right? Yeah, that's changing the path, so I'm not going the exact same path again. There wasn't this direction here. Yeah, there is. What was it talking about? Remember the path. It's a corridor. Oh no, not the corridor-shaped maze. Oh no, it's Captain Jack Sparrow.
Your prayers.
How did that guy get in here?
I asked the gods for mercy, all of them, even theirs. None answered. In the end, I set myself.
Is he FMV?
Defy the gods.
No, it's just like a guy with a filter over it.
Like I find mine.
My gods abandoned me.
I don't think that's FMV.
I am alone.
I thought we were doing like a Borderlands there for a second, but just have a real ass lady, you know. That was Borderlands 1, right? We just have like a movie of like a video file of like a woman just at the beach, kind of smiling at the camera. That was funny because you could like replace that video file with anything. So whenever you got like a vision from like the narrator, it could be like SpongeBob or something. This looks like Kratos' hut at the start of God of War. This is area here, right? What am I looking for? I'm looking for the pyres, right? So probably things that are on fire, some cinders and stuff. So I feel like I'm on the right path. Oh, hello.
The Northmen say that the defender of Muspel is called Surt, the foremost of the fire giants. His name means the Black One, because he is like something burnt. The Northmen believe that he sits at the border of Muspel with his flaming sword, and at the end of the world he will leave his post. He will travel to Asgard and Midgard, waging war against all the gods. He will be victorious, and then burn the whole world with fire.
Can't see. Oh, hang on. No, I've not started the puzzle, have I? The door. You gotta look at this thing. Now we gotta find the R. Sure. And that's a Visual Studio there, right?
Hell worship the Devourers, insatiable
There's
gods.
a logo for something. I can't quite remember. But I swear I've seen that logo somewhere.
Where I once followed my own gods, the Tuatha De Danann.
Why did you abandon your gods?
Senua,
Right, two speakers facing away from each other. Where are they?
a warrior.
In here? No.
To survive, I did things.
Are they back here? Oh, something here apparently.
Like you, Senua.
I can't
The
see
man
it
I
though.
once was has died. And when that happens,
Where's the X?
even gods you worship can die with you.
Over here apparently. Huh. I don't see it. From another angle? I'm only getting it around here. Is it in here? Well, I can do it around here too. Oh, there it is. That's it. Alright, so it's not like you got the that symbol shows up not when you have the point of view correct. It shows up when you're in the right place. So Arden. Where would that be? Oh, around here. Somewhere. I guess around here. Oh, hello, hello. Don't see anything yet. That could be an R. I feel like if I managed to see like that little diagonal bit, I'd see it. If I just saw something that was kind of askew. Like the roof there. Or the tree? Maybe if I go to the upper floor of this house, I'll see it. Because that might count as the same area. Because there was nothing up here last time I went up, so... Yeah, it does count as the same area. I cannot see an R now. Oh, the fire! Of course, I did not see that. The game is really forgiving, just as long as you stand in the right place. Like, I had not figured out at the time that there was the fire. I was kind of hoping to figure it out myself, though. The game was just like, okay, you had your fun. Give me that controller, little brother. I'll show you the way. Hello? Anyone here? Anyone else? I'll take some friends, but not them. Oh shit, where the fuck am I going? I do not remember the way. It'll be fine. It's not like I can die and permanently fail or anything. This way. It's probably from where I came from, if I had to guess. I'm just gonna run wherever there isn't fire, and that's good enough for me. Whoa, Tony! Tony up. Get it balanced. Oh my god, jeez, someone's shrieking at me. I did not appreciate it. Hello? Oh no, I'm gonna sneeze. Nope. Oh no. The worst time. Can't mute and everything when I'm in the fire. Oh frig, I'm definitely in fire right now. Oops, that's the wrong button. That's the right button though. This way.
You say your world has collapsed. Good. Let it collapse, and have the courage to shed your tears. Raise your world to the ground!
My world is dead.
Only then, as with a newborn, will you see the world anew.
No, I see nothing now.
Where to? You can't climb that. Oh, you can climb that out. I couldn't know. I hate ladders. Ugh. Whenever I'm in like certain cabins, like awkward cabins with like loft rooms, and there's like a ladder there, inevitably, for some reason that always gets handed to me. I don't know. Biggest guy there gets the smallest room with like the sloped ceiling. I don't get it. It keeps happening to me. Not last time though. I ran to the master bedroom and I claimed it for myself. Conquered it. No more loft fucking ladder room for me.
The Northmen believe that the world will be destroyed someday. They call it Ragnarok, the destiny of the gods. Asgard will be attacked by Surt and the fire giants. A monstrous wolf will swallow the sun, and the gods will fight in vain against their enemies. There is nothing they can do to prevent it, but Odin ever seeks knowledge and magic, hoping to find a way.
That's the way.
To postpone that dark day.
I gotta get down here then. Oh, there's a door though. I didn't want to leave the room because it started fading out the voice. Would be nice if it just kept playing, because I don't want to skip it. I feel like I'm not really playing the spirit of the game if I'm just gonna start skipping all the dialogue. What's that? A little weird T and P and a little different P? Yeah.
Tell me truth. How did you escape your darkness?
Senua, once I found my purpose, I was no longer enslaved to the suffering I had to endure to reach it. Unclouded by fear, I could see it clearly in others. Even my captors feared the fire of Surt.
Up here?
During one raid, I took my chance and ran, knowing that they would not follow. A fool ran into the
I think I have to go up there first.
They left me for dead. Maybe
Oh, hello.
but here I am,
That's a symbol.
free.
Who put that there? Who put that symbol there?
I'm glad I found you in the wilds. I wouldn't have made it without you.
It's not a close match, but I get it. that seemed a bit off to me, but sure. Good enough. So P, and then weird P now. Let's see. It's like a P, but like the finger's in the middle. Around here, apparently. Oh, there it is. Gotcha. And then alternate P. Oh, I'm gonna have to go up here for that, aren't I? Did I ever go up here? I don't remember this ladder. I remember going up a ladder, but I don't think I went up here. Oh, here we go. It's the weird P. And it's right... the right... Oh, maybe not here, but maybe it's here. Where is it? I can't cheat really easily by just pressing the button, but I'm gonna try to see if I can see it first. Is that it? Got it. Like, if you just, like, hold the button and just, like, spin around, you can, like, really easily just solve every puzzle. It's just a matter of time then, really. Because if your camera is anywhere near that thing you're trying to access, you'll just like lock onto it.
Senua,
Alright, so I want to go right up there, I think. Yeah.
and escape.
Probably not going to be a direct path though.
And so can you.
Alright, there we go. Oh, that's loud.
Run, through the fire. Keep running.
Through the fire and the flames?
Run, Senua, run.
Alright, we'll carry on through the fire and the flames. What a great band. Dragon Force, everyone's favorite, eh? I reckon the Dragon Force would have the same sort of notoriety today if they didn't have that one song in Guitar Hero. Ball?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This darkness takes everything. Everyone.
Senua, are you sure you want to do this? We can fight this together, side by side. We always do.
This is my battle. I have to face it alone, away from here.
Where will you go?
I don't know.
For how long?
I don't know.
I believe in you. You know that. Just promise me that you will come back to me. I want you to say it. I want you to say it.
I will come back to you. I promise.
Come on.
Spill the blood of Circe. Take his mark.
Oh, there he is.
And forever be.
Well, I can't parry that. Oh, maybe now I can. It was a bit too much when it wasn't fire, but this'll do. It's like a Silent Hill enemy reject.
Now!
Oh, okay, yeah, no blocking that. Stop him. Stop him. Stop that. Oh, that's a good way to stop him, probably. Wait, is this suit? I kind of pictured him a bit bigger. I kind of like went as like nipples, like whole countries or something. I guess he's shrunk in the wash. Yeah, it is Surge. It's a tiny little boy now, though. Tiny little funny boy. Oh, don't touch him. They were right. Now you suturing at the suit. I was like gonna focus and things on the amplifier anymore. It helps so much. Oh, that's did not have time stop there. I thought I time stop, but I did not. Got him. I knew that wouldn't do a lot of damage, but I figured I had to. They're good enough? He looks kind of tired. No. It still got some juice in him. Still good.
For every battle won, a greater battle takes its place. And so it goes. Until we fall. And in the end, we all fall. Even the gods have their time. Yet we still go on. Why?
I made a promise, and I will go to hell to keep
I
it.
die free, knowing you will carry my stories with you. I have fulfilled my quest.
Yes, you have.
When the darkness comes, I vow to guide you in this life and the next to fulfill yours.
Then I will see you in hell.
Be ready to face horror in the eye, as I have, to find your answers, your quest, your truth.
Chivos. Got him. Yeah, it cleared up the weather again. It's a bit different. Oh, it didn't clear it up as much. It's very cloudy now. It's a bit different.
Scholar turned slave. They tortured him. Took him with them on their raids. Drove him to madness.
I don't think it was this ashen before.
Spreading this new form of darkness.
I think it was rather clear before, wasn't it? Because I could see those mountains. I like it. It's nice when some games like kind of mark progress together with weather effects. Like Bubble is really cool. A lot of From Software games actually are quite cool about that.
Senua saw a deep connection form between the Northmen.
Like most of them at this point, I think. Maybe. At least like the most recent ones.
All were true. Then that was the source of it. She learned everything she could from him.
It's kind of fun doing this like little victory lap after finishing these levels. Not too sure where to go though. I have indeed forgotten my way now. It wasn't up here, was it? Guess so. This doesn't feel like the way. No, it's away, it's away. Okay, I think I just follow the fire on the floor actually. No, they hurt me. There's no more fire on the floor.
Have you ever died before?
No, not really.
It's a serious.
Can't say I have.
When the illusion of self is shattered, you simply cease to be. Though it may not seem that way to others, you know when it is true. You can feel it. A stranger in your own body. An imposter. And nothing is the same ever again.
No, well, if you put it that way, maybe. Just have to phrase the question a bit differently.
You can be sure
With the mark of Valravan and the mark of Surt, you may cross the bridge over the River of Knives to Helheim.
Let's go.
Waiting. Open the gate. Open the gate. Don't. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. Don't open the gate. Don't. She's done it.
She's done it. She's up the gate.
It's so dark. It's dark. The dark. Only the dead may cross. Only the dead may cross into hell.
Oh, good thing we've died many times though.
truth. Anyone?
There is no one here but me.
Not you.
Did you think that I would let you go? That you lost me back in the wilds? I will never let you go. You can't get rid of me. I am your shadow. And I will be watching when you draw your last dying gasp.
I'm not ready to die.
You will be when you see what they did to your dear beloved.
Maybe just hanging out up there. Don't let that dash your hopes just yet.
Nightmare. Where all dreams come true. You searched for control. A way to pull through. When you were in love, you left him in tears. To smother your furies. And banish your fears. But in darkness they came. Through stormy black seas they raided these shores. Do you still hear his screams? And now that you're home, he's so far away. They've taken his soul. To these gods you cannot pray. They can break you, but not your promise. Even death won't keep you apart. Through his darkness you will find him. In your sword still beats a heart. You fought for love unspoiled. By your darkness.
Nah, he's not doing it right.
You fought for your dream.
He's not just hanging around.
Now there's no way to win. In the head of his corpse lies the seat of his soul. So you must carry his vessel to bring him back home.
No!
They can break you, but not your promise. Even death won't keep you apart. Through this darkness you will find him. In your sword still beats a heart.
Sure. Didn't get it right last part, but yeah, right on, dude. Yeah, the audio design in this is really good. Like, sort of, the production values in general are really good in this. It's a really well-produced game.
Hollows of your eyes. A gaze
It's very impressive.
averted from life.
Yeah.
You ran from it but brought it nearer.
Ideally not played together with Final Fantasy VII music, yeah.
Endless suffering, worse than death. And you wanted to surrender, abandon and to find peace with the gods. No. The darkness won't allow it. So you will walk into the lair of the beast. Look it in the eye, and you will go to war. This is your mission. This is your quest. There is nothing.
Horse place. I need a horse place, it's gonna be important someday. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying Final Fantasy. You said it's been quite a while since you played it. I bet you'll probably be able to finish that now that you got started with it. Pretty quick. It'll be fun when you get to some of the ones I'm more familiar with. Like 10 is the one I'm the most familiar with. That's the one I really love. I'm quite familiar with 9 as well, but 10 is has always been my favorite one.
It's your calling.
Don't give up.
I was trying to block 2 enemies at once there. It's quite awkward. It feels like you really ought to isolate them. Oh, no, I didn't think I was going to interrupt him there. Room of Paritonin. I lost track of the other guy, but I'm sure he's not gonna attack me anytime soon. I'm sure I'm fine. I forgot that he actually will still block every time after I parry him, man. It's rude, I parry him, he shouldn't be able to block me, man. Come on. Oh, kill that guy. I'm probably sure there was one other guy that was just looming over me, waiting to attack me.
Every gate you open into darkness brings another challenge.
Oh, it's is that a cutscene? Just a little intro. Is the who now? Homer? This looks like Homer to me. Oh my god, you're fucking kidding me. It's a minigame boss. I love these guys. Check it out, it's a pillar. I don't know what this pillar's for. Gotta have one of these guys. What's a game gonna do without any of these guys in it? Oh, that really hurt. Jeez.
She's hurt. She's injured. She won't make it. He's a better fighter. He'll die.
Oh, jeez. Fuck, he died. Well, just the one, so it's fine. I should try to parry these, but oof. It takes so long to swing. Oh my god, it does so much damage when it charges you. Yeah, I'm like on death's door right now. I should just back off him, I guess. I hope he doesn't charge me again. Capable of spamming that dash, I guess. There we go, that's what I wanted. Oh, he gets really stunned if he charges a pole. He doesn't like that at all. Peekaboo. Hello. 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 No, get back to the pillow. I like you around the pillow. Because if it does the move that kills you, you can't do it. I feel like that was a parry. These attacks might be too heavy for parries, I guess. Whoa, the pillar! Come on, guy! Yeah, I'm definitely getting parries here, but the attacks are too heavy. Oh, fuck me. No. Not sure why stomping the ground make these guys spawn. Not quite sure what happened there, because I froze time at a really inopportune time for him, I feel. Oh, he's still there. Fuck me. No, that's a different guy. They're just all really huge. Thank you.
Behind you. Defend yourself.
Yeah, like I definitely can parry your timing down. That guy just attacks with only heavy attacks, I guess. That are like for dodging. Is he back? Yeah, there is. No, that's not the guy. Oh, owie. Can't quite tell exactly how much the damage things does, but looks like it does a lot of damage when the screen's like this. I can't tell because it's not health bar or anything. Oh, I not made to press that, but sure, I'll take it. His leg is not enjoying this. Did you see his legs pass out? Wait, what about the boss? I didn't kill him, did I? What is this? Is that an illusion? Like shards? Like blanks or something? No. They look like glass shards to me. Wait. Maybe it's nothing. What about the boss fight? I guess it's gonna come back, isn't he? Oh, this is familiar. I think you have time for one more of these puzzles and then I call a stream.
The journey to Helheim is never a straight one. Each must find their own path. Align yourself to its secrets, and you will find yours.
Oh, boat. There's gotta be something about the that thing. It looks like the staircase, but like if it was like shattered. That's what it looks like. Yeah, there we go. Like a puzzle piece staircase. I see. I get a puzzle. So it's like the rune stuff again, but you gotta see like objects in the right angle instead.
Whenever you come to the gold-covered bridge that leads to Hell, you may find it guarded by a giantess. She will ask your name. She will ask your lineage. She will ask your business. The Northmen tell of the warrior woman Brynhild, who leapt into fire and rode to Hell to join her slain love Sigurd, and is challenged by the giantess.
Well, how did that go for Brynhild? Considering I'm doing the same thing, I sure hope it went well for them. I'll go down here first. Wee? No, I thought she was gonna shimmy down the ladder. My wee sound effect was for nothing. Wait, hang on, wasn't that here before? No, this is a different one.
Hela possesses large dwelling places in Helheim.
Landlord alert. Friggin' Hela.
Are her gates. The name of her dish is hunger. Her knife is famine. On her threshold all will stop.
Oh, her party sound horrible.
Her bed is called sick bed, and her bed hangings are called flames of a funeral pyre. They say she is easy to recognize, half black and half the color of flesh. And her face, menacing and grim.
Oh, this is gotta be something. Yeah, there it is. That looks like something there too. So a little S and an X. If I had one more S, I'd be playing a real cool snowballing game. There's an S here somewhere. Where is it? Beep. Oh, is it? What is that? Well, that's the X maybe. Nah, it's not. But the S is, yeah, apparently somewhere. Oh, there is. No, come on. That's the S, right? Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say. I wonder if this thing is all three things, but from different perspectives. Oh, it is. Let's go. Or isn't? No, yeah, this is gonna be an X if I stand under. I have to climb down, and then that'll be an X, yeah. Yeah, no, it was all three things, just from different perspectives. That's cool. Then hit him. And over, not here, but like here. There you are. Gotcha. 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 There we go. God damn it. Struggling a bit to find the X. That'll do, I think. I'm gonna open this door. And we'll call the stream there, I think. And we'll continue from here next time. I don't know how much more there is of this game, actually. Probably be able to finish this game next time. So, that'll probably be sometime either during this week or next week, I think. We'll probably do another stream and finish this. Should be a good time. I like this. I wasn't quite sure about what game to play today. I think this worked out alright. Because, like, I kind of wanted something that was, like, a bit actiony, just so would be easy getting back into it. But also something that had a bit of, like, you know, some narrative and stuff, so some dialogue. And this seemed kind of perfect. And I think this game was sufficiently interesting as well to keep me invested. I've been positively impressed by this game. Surprised by it. I thought it was going to be a bit more generic, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot more generic. And like mechanically, it's like fine. But I think like aesthetically, it's a really cool game. So I'm having a good time with this. So I think we'll either stream either next Tuesday, maybe Friday, either Friday or Sunday. I think that'll be the next stream. We'll see. If not those days, probably Tuesday next week. Yeah, I think I'm ready to get the streams started a bit more regularly again. It should be a good time, hopefully. It's been a long time, but it wasn't quite as bad getting back into it as I thought it would be. Cheers! Thanks for coming, everyone. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back streaming. Thanks for coming, everyone. And it was nice to see everyone coming back for the stream on no notice as well. This was gonna be my notice, basically, that I'm streaming again. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. We'll call it here. Goodbye, good night. Have a good one. Goodbye.